tedious. The suggestion that she abandon her husband and stepchildren for a short while had come a few months earlier from Detective Superintendent Sonia Gladwin, who had observed something of the reality in the Slocum household in recent times. Her relationship with Thea had broadened and deepened over the years, since they were first brought together in a village crime. Thea had found a body, and Gladwin, newly transferred from the northeast, had been happy to make use of her, regardless of her amateur status. Now, Thea was firmly established in a hard-to-define role that gave her an unusual level of access to police matters. Drew's profession clearly helped to make them both acceptable as semi-official assistants in murder inquiries. Gladwin, it turned out, had a friend by the name of Tabitha Ibbotson, in possession of an old Cotswold house in need of renovation. The builders had to be supervised, the contents safeguarded, and the friend was temporarily unavailable. Thea would be paid to take charge, staying on the premises day and night. It was something she had done many times before, in the company of her spaniel, Hepzibah. Only since marrying Drew had she abandoned her house-sitting career, and she found herself missing it. But this time, Hepsi was to stay behind. Stephanie had insisted, with Drew's somewhat surprising support. Thea was at first distraught at the prospect of a house-sit without her faithful companion, as well as doubtful as to how Hepsi would cope with the separation. "She's never spent more than 3 days without me," she protested. Those 3 days had been the minimal honeymoon that she and Drew had awarded themselves a year earlier. They had gone to the Scilly Isles, while Thea's mother looked after the dog, and Drew's colleague Mags had accommodated the children. The spaniel had sat attentively at their feet, aware of being at the centre of the discussion. Thea bent down and fondled the long ears in an excessive demonstration of her love. "She won't even notice you've gone," said Drew heartlessly. While the argument was still raging, Gladwin had mentioned that her friend had vetoed the presence of a dog anyway. "It'll get under the builder's feet, and there's quite a busy road through the village," she said. "And I don't think there's a proper door at the back. They've knocked a wall down, and it's open to the world." Thea had gone to view the property at the beginning of July, and hadn't been back since. "There was a perfectly good door when I saw it," she grumbled. The distance between Barnsley and Byberry was barely more than 3 miles, which accounted for Drew's bewilderment over their names. Initially, Gladwin had cited Byberry as the location of the property, and somehow nobody had bothered to correct her to name the smaller village, which boasted a pub, a church, and a hotel that called itself a spa. In a random piece of research, Thea had learnt that it was an old drove road, which had been replaced by the B4425 2 centuries earlier, shifting the focus to the south and causing the hotel's frontage to become its back. There was considerably more history going back to Roman times, which she resolved to investigate during the dull days of house-sitting. And now it was only 1 more day until she took up residence there, and she was again reassuring Drew that he'd managed quite well without her. Stephanie was 11, and Timmy almost 9. They could be left in the house for an hour or so while Drew conducted a burial. Thus far, he only had 3 funerals in the diary, but "There are bound to be at least another 3 before you come back," he said. "So, if you're as worried as all that, you can ask one of their little friends' mothers to have them." It was an unforgivably blithe response, as she well knew. Stephanie had 2 or 3 classmates she counted as friends, but they had made no plans to meet during the summer. They were all going to the same secondary school in September, and would undoubtedly regard the presence of Timmy as an intrusion, being a mere junior. In any case, he would resist all attempts by adults to park him at some girl's house, even for an hour. "I can't," said Drew, listing several of these good reasons. "Well, you could hold it over them as a threat if they don't behave." "You mean if they burn the house down, or one of them falls out of a window and cracks its skull?" "Oh, stop."